Welcome, this is Shakti Carola Navran, and I'm a little late today here with my weekly forecast because I had to shut down my iPad, something didn't work, the connection wasn't working. So anyway, here we are for our weekly forecast, and if you have been following me, you can kind of scroll forward like 5 minutes so I can do my introduction to people who haven't seen this work. So I'm what they call an evolutionary astrologer. So I look at everything in the heavens and at the birth chart from the perspective of your soul. So it's all about how you can grow, how you can integrate those celestial forces. And we all have a choice. We have a choice between what we would call the low-end possibilities of manifestation or the high-end possibilities of manifestations. So hold on here. Okay, so what I have prepared for you today is I'm going to give you an overview, kind of an idea what this week is about, and I don't just want to give you astrological foreign language. I really try every week to kind of crystallize out a theme which is in the foreground for all of us. So we're going to discuss a lot about Scorpio energy today. And then towards the second part of this forecast, I'm going to go through each day of the week and tell you what's happening there specifically. So first we do the little overview and then we get very specific. Hi Paul, good to see you. Okay, so as I said before, I'm not a fortune teller. So the future is not set in stones. So we are all surrounded and impacted constantly by certain celestial energies and activations. And it all relates back to our personal chart. So this is how it looks like. This is kind of a chart. So you see all the planets in the zodiac, in the houses, which are these slices of the pie here. So this is how a birth chart looks. So then the planets continue moving. And this is how we do a forecast chart. So here you have the chart inside and here you have the transits. And then you can see how they form new connections to where the planets were in the moment of your birth. And then you will get extremely impacted by, depending on what planet is touching you in that individualized way. Hi Sheila, or Sheila, how do you say that? Anyway, so what I can do today is kind of give you a general idea and discuss certain important planets, where they are in the heavens right now. And then you want to know about your birth chart and where your planets are. For example, when we have the new moon tomorrow in Scorpio, if you have any planets in Scorpio, ascendant, moon, sun, or other planets, there will be especially activated. So then this new moon becomes especially important for you. So if you don't have your birth chart, you can go to my website, mauiastrologyreading.com. I'm going to put a link down there. And sign up for my newsletter. That way I can keep you in the loop with all my updates and events and things I'm doing. And you will get access to get your free birth chart. And then you know where your moon is, what your ascendant is, and so on. So you will also get what I call the Lovestone report, because I'm also an expert for gemstones. I've worked with them all my life as a jeweler and astrologer. So there are certain gemstones you can especially use to support certain areas in your personality. And that is very powerful because the gemstones hold a very certain frequency. And we have a physical body, but basically it's all energy. So whenever you bring this perfectly organized stone representing a certain signature and frequency into your energy field, it will do something. So if you ever have done acupuncture or homeopathy, that's energy frequency medicine, opening up blockages, letting the energy flow in a better way. So in a way, gemstones can do that, and on top of that, they're beautiful, and you can wear them in your jewelry, and you can meditate with them. So there are many ways to really enjoy those perfect, beautiful gifts of Mother Earth. Okay, so If you have been following me, you know I'm not doing individual readings with people, but I'm also teaching astrology. So I'm the founder of Master Astrology Academy. I can put the link down there as well. So if I'm inspiring you to learn astrology and you tap into the magic of it all, then you can look and join my training program and really use those celestial forces in a very conscious way. And that brings me to the theme for the coming week. It is all about awareness and consciousness. And let me see, so I don't miss anything. So this overall week is all about our ability to hold the witness function in us. I know I have talked about it before, but nevertheless this is so important. So if we believe that we are part of the ocean consciousness and that we are part of all that is, of the divine creation on whatever levels, then the witness is kind of holding that space of consciousness in which we as an individual appear. So for that, it's good to have a regular practice like astrology. I mean, astrology can do that for you every day to give you that certain perspective of mindfulness, of awareness, of conscious processing of what's happening in your life. And then you have a choice if you want to or are able to manifest things on a higher level of possibilities. I mean, everybody lives their birth chart, everybody lives with those universal creative forces. The question is just, is it more low end or is it more high end? So my whole intention with these forecasts is to really educate and inspire you and pass the buck to love astrology and to ultimately thrive in your life. So you know how to get to your goals and intentions and what step it takes. So astrology is really all about consciousness and that evolving ability to witness how you respond to events in your life. And everything what happens out there in your life is a reflection of your inner world. So we choose according to how we feel and what our thoughts are. So to have more awareness in that moment of gap before we react or do something can really make all the difference in the world between a low-end response or a high-end response. Okay, so this week it's about developing that witness and that mindfulness. So mindfulness is a term which has become quite fashionable in the last couple of years maybe, because it's a way to process, to be aware, to slow things down. So we can be very mindful while we eat, for example, to really choose the food, to really taste the flavors. We can be mindful cleaning the kitchen. We can be mindful in our meditation practice. So most of the time when people talk about mindfulness, they mean to integrate that mindful presence in daily life things you're doing. So that's a very helpful and deepening practice to really try to have that perspective of mindfulness, of witnessing what's going on inside of you and your emotions, to witness your thoughts. And I want to remind you, you are not your thoughts, you are not even your emotions. And our mind, you can look at this radio receiver receiving certain information, thoughts, patterns, depending on your set point of reception, which radio station you're dialed into. So this is why it really depends on us what we pull into our experience. And then, of course, what we do with that, what kind of choices and adaptations we're doing. Okay, so I'm talking about all that because the overall theme for the week has a lot to do with transformation and transmutation. If you have read any books about transmutation and the alchemists, the idea is that this not most, but least valuable metal, lead, is through a certain process transformed into gold. And I'm sure a lot of people took that very concretely, trying to do that change. But I do believe that actually it's more meant that this is a process we undergo in our consciousness, that we transform and transmute our inner world into a conscious perception, and therefore we have active choices what we're going to do with that. So as you know, Sun is in Scorpio, Mercury is in Scorpio, and tonight the Moon is stepping into Scorpio. So tomorrow we're going to have a new moon, which is when Sun and Moon are in the same position, and a new cycle of lunar evolution, emotional maturation is happening. So if you have been following me, you might have seen that we had to say goodbye to our cat this week. And it was quite a sweet and intense and powerful process. So this is her. She got to be 20 years old and was such a gift in our life. Really, really amazing. So in a way, when we talk about Scorpio, we talk about transformation. We talk about death and rebirth. So that's why dying or being born is all Scorpio energy. It's like you go over that transformation, either from this world into the non-physical world, or you come in from the non-physical world into the physical world. So it's a very powerful and amazingly touching event. So for example, if somebody has a lot of planets in Scorpio, they might decide to be with people in their dying process and be helpful that way. Or people can be a midwife and help babies to come into the world. So that's all Scorpio stuff, because it's stuff which goes very deep. And death is something we don't like to talk about, we don't like to think about. And when we do, when we are a witness of a family member or friend dying or a pet dying, we are actually really touched by the mysteries, and something deep inside of us happens. So it's not only that when we touch into that space that we are reminded that we are not immortal, at least not on the physical level, and we are reminded that the soul is actually eternal. And when you have sat with a dead body, it's so obvious that what made that person in that body is not there anymore. It's just that physical shell. And when I sat with my father years ago, it was really a very physical experience to realize that. So it went beyond belief systems and knowing that the soul is eternal. So if you have a chance to sit with somebody dying, it's a wonderful way to get really real and deep and process those inner fears and beliefs and opinions you hold about death. So having been with my cat this week was another reminder, and definitely a very sweet, deep process. I mean, I sat all day Wednesday with her, just holding her, and she couldn't do anything anymore and not even lift her head. So there was such a sweetness and such a depth and such a conclusion of the journey. So whenever we have a chance to do that with a loved one, being it a human or a pet, it's powerful and it's wonderful. So it also reminds us that there are certain things we can't change. We have to surrender to, we have to let go. And of course, it's very smart to know the difference. Things you can change and things you can't change. So for me, a lot of that was happening this week, and I feel very gifted and blessed with the process. And of course, there's a lot of grieving and still tears every day, which is just the loss I feel. But nevertheless, I think for her, it's a happy day. So she left that old hurting body. Another thing of Scorpio is, because Scorpio is not only the sign for death and rebirth, but it's also the sign where that transformation happens in us. So Scorpio is related, therefore, to the whole digestive process. So because in our colon and our digestive tract there is always a certain accumulation of toxicity, and there's actually build-up on the colon walls with kind of hardening kind of surface attaching itself. So then we have trouble to really get all the nutritions we might get in our diet, but the body can't really take it in. So it's a good idea to do a cleanse once in a while. So I had already planned on that, and it will be starting on Monday. And I do a 5-day cleanse every day, a colonic, where the whole colon is cleared out and cleansed, and it goes together with liquid food and very simple food. So it's going to be quite a process. And if you have any thoughts about doing a cleanse, now's the time. I'm not saying you have to do it next week, but while all those planets are in Scorpio, it's a wonderful day. And especially to start on it with the moon, which has a lot to do with our unconsciousness, our how we process our emotions. So that's actually a good starting day for me to do that cleanse on Monday. So I'm going to tell you next week how it went, how miserable or high I was. Okay, so transmutation, cleanse, and the ability to discern between what we can change and what we can't, and then the smartness to let it go, to let go the struggle and the resistance and the fight. Okay, so let's start into the concrete week. So today, Moon enters Scorpio at 7:01 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that kind of starts us into that energy which will be blossoming tomorrow with a new moon. We also have Venus conjunct Saturn today, and we have the moon square to Mars and opposition to Uranus. So this is kind of an intense day. It's a day to stay home, to kind of move things around, to digest your week, which happened. And the Venus conjunction to Saturn, remember Venus is a planet representing our heart, our need for connection, our love. So Saturn is always a challenging planet, and even if it's a pretty fast transit, so it's just a few days here exact, but nevertheless it puts a spotlight into relationships. So deepening your relationship is a high-end response. Frustration, anger, resentment would be the low-end response of Saturn-Venus. So of course, whenever relationships are part of what we're dealing with, it's always about our skillfulness in communication and honesty. I think what's the most hurtful in relationships is if we feel we cannot be honest with each other. And then that builds and it creates that buffer between us and our loved ones. And at some point we just feel we don't have anything to say to each other anymore because the important things we didn't say. So that's kind of what the Saturday is starting us off into throughout the week, I would say. So it's really to pay attention to your relationships and how you communicate and how honest and deep you can be. Like for me, with my husband, sharing this process with our cat this week, it brought up this deep intimacy between us, this crying together and being on the bed with her, and when I needed to eat, he would take her, and I mean, it had such a sweetness to meet in that depth, in that honesty and realness of the present moment. So allow yourself to experience that in your relationship. And that's the reason why when we make it through challenging times in our relationship, that then we often feel, oh, this is so much better than it was before, this problem we had and made it through. It's because then we are more honest. We made it through. So the intimacy, the true connection, the true heart-to-heart can happen. Okay, the moon square Mars-Uranus brings in some spunk, some interruption, some surprises, maybe a fight. Mars square moon can symbolize an emotional upheaval. So yeah, today is quite a day to really develop that witness function. Tomorrow, new moon in Scorpio. It's happening at 10:38 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And also the moon will be conjuncting Mercury, which kind of is a good connection. Whenever the moon connects with Mercury, we get more insight, more understanding, more mental acuity of our emotional body and what's happening under the surface of the top of our wave. So we have more access to unconscious feelings or thoughts or memories we haven't been aware of. So in my book, that's a good thing, because we become more self-aware, and ultimately this is really what life is about, to raise consciousness, to tap into all that is, into divine consciousness, or as I call it, the ocean consciousness. So the new moon is always a new start of one circle of evolution. So then, depending on the sign it is in, that kind of describes that starting energy which changes and evolves throughout the months. So it's kind of it starts in the new moon, and it kind of comes to that fruition and highlighting of the full moon, and then it is waxing till the new moon is happening. So you can imagine with Scorpio, the sign of death and rebirth and transformation and deep intense feelings and all that, ruled by Pluto, the god of the underworld, the hell realms. When the emotional journey starts in that sign, that is intense. So there is something potentially we can tap into we haven't been aware of before. And that's a good thing. So I made a whole new moon video in Scorpio for you. So if you want to deepen a little bit and get prepared, I suggest go find it on YouTube or on my Facebook page and get prepared, because that will give you the access to the high-end manifestations, what to do with that energy. Okay, Monday the 31st, moon is trining Chiron and sextiling Pluto. Sextiles are kind of more easy energies coming in, sextiles and trines. So in that perspective, we could say it's a little quieter on Monday. But nevertheless, whenever Pluto or Chiron is involved, Chiron is a wounded healer, always wants us to pay attention and do some inner healing work. And Pluto again connects us to what's under the surface, unconscious dimensions. So, but both planets, Chiron as well as Pluto, do it in a not too pushy way on Monday. So you can ignore it if you want to, but then the next square or conjunction or opposition will hit you even harder. So it's always good to keep in mind also the easy flowing energetic connections, connecting the two principles. Tuesday, the 1st, moon enters Sagittarius at I didn't write it down. I think it's 8:43 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But let me look it up so I don't tell you something wrong here. Moon enters Sagittarius, 7:43 a.m. Sorry, it's good I looked it up. Okay, so Sagittarius, after that new moon in Scorpio, where it's all going inside and tapping into those other deeper realms of our own self. Now the moon enters Sagittarius, and that's always kind of a more expressive and how can I say, a more generous way to step into the world. So Sagittarius is fire. Sagittarius is the adventurer, the one who always wants to step out of the boundaries, the beliefs, opinions, and experience more of the world. Hi, Karina. So Sagittarius is always a time where we kind of feel good, we feel optimistic, we have faith, life is good. So that's an energy we get once a month and for a couple of days, and it's always a time where we feel this push to experience that, to push out of the emotional box, and we all live in a box, so no matter how conscious you are. So Sagittarius kind of opens that box, the windows, and Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, is a good fortune planet, so we can't expect much to happen if we just do things as usual. So how did Einstein say? It's insanity to do the same things over and over again and expect a different result. So same here. If you stay in your box, do the same thing, there's not much adventure or even growth happening in your life. So Moon in Sagittarius is always an invitation to spread your wings and sail through life. Okay, also the Sun is trining Neptune on Tuesday. So Neptune is the mystic in the chart, is the part in us where we have a big channel from our conscious mind and identification, our sense of self, all the way down into the not only our own unconsciousness, but into the ocean consciousness, all that is, the divine, the non-physical, the morphogenetic field. So it's a harmonious connection, trine. So there will be a lot of inspiration and connection and feeling we are connected to something bigger. And whenever we feel that way, we feel bigger and better and not so isolated. So all our problems are part of identification just with the top of the wave, with the top of our consciousness. So whenever we have a Neptunian invitation to go deeper and connect with something more than just our own ego and story, this is where all the problems are. So whenever we are able to open up to the ocean consciousness, something bigger can flow in, and usually we love that feeling. So through meditation, mindfulness, we have already talked about, art, dancing, singing, being in nature, walking your dog, sitting in the garden, these can all be ways to tap into that bigger spaciousness, that bigger field of consciousness. I mean, here we are in Maui, we're very lucky, we can go into the real ocean, and usually thoughts stop. I mean, you're just part with the element, so it's very powerful. And I know many people who do that very regularly, living here on the island, go surf or swim every day. So that's a Neptune promise and possibility to connect us to that dimension. Wednesday, the 2nd, Moon conjuncts Saturn and Venus. So this is an actualization again for the heart, for a relationship, for connection. So Saturn is always kind of putting the spotlight, wanting us to get clear, doing the work which is needed, developing a certain discipline to do the great work, whatever that great work is. So whenever Moon is conjuncting with Saturn, it's about some inner feelings we want to become more aware and clear about, and then, if possible, work with them, do something about it. Moon conjunct Venus is a very sweet energy. It's like Moon and Venus are both feminine symbols in the birth chart. So Moon is the divine mother, Venus is the goddess of love and the arts. So when they kind of join forces, a very sweet, gentle-hearted, receptive energy is available to us. So it could be that you paint a wonderful picture that day, or you go dancing tango with your partner. This would be all wonderful things. Or you just make love, and it will be very special that day. Okay, Thursday the 3rd, Moon enters Capricorn and Moon conjuncts Mercury. Moon enters Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign of winter, where things get a little, the life force withdraws. There are no leaves on the trees anymore. So whenever the Moon enters Capricorn, we become kind of an emotional minimalist. So we feel okay being more alone. Actually, we do need to be more alone on this day. To really hang out with our own self and feel comfortable about that. Also because of the Mercury conjunction. Mercury is a symbol for our intellect, how we process mentally. So here we have a chance on Thursday to process our inner world of feelings of the Moon more consciously. And that leads me back to where we started out with developing your inner witness and mindfulness. So that's coming to fruition on Thursday. That subject and that invitation to do that. Friday, Venus square Chiron. So again, relationship, heart, healing of the heart. And let me tell you, we all have wounds in the heart. We all are brought up by humans, people who had their own wounds, and a lot of them are passed on unconsciously to our children. So I believe everybody needs therapy. Everybody needs to work with those inner wounds and dimensions. And what it does for any kind of inner work or therapy, it's kind of you lowering the line of the wave, and you include more unconscious material. So overall you become more conscious of who you are in the world and what's going on and what you really have to offer. Mm-hmm. So yeah, here Chiron Venus, it's a square, so it's in your face, so it might show up in interaction with a person. That's often how we deal with wounds in the heart. Something gets triggered and stimulated, and then we have to deal with it. So it can also be really a wonderful experience that you realize you have learned to take care for yourself, to deal with others in a helpful way. You can stand up, you can set your boundaries, and you're able to compromise and balance the scales into that peaceful, loving kindness. So that's the high end of the Venus Chiron. And then next Saturday, when we will meet again, Moon conjuncts Pluto and squares Uranus. So again, that's kind of intense, and potentially a day again to take things deeper. I mean, Pluto really rules the unconsciousness, things we haven't been aware of. And when we have trauma in our life, what we do, we stuff things down under the threshold of consciousness. And it's good that our psyche has that mechanism because, for example, early childhood trauma, I mean, the child is not able to process things. So in a way, it's a survival mechanism to be able to stuff things down, but it takes a lot of energy to keep things down there. So over a lifetime, we get ample of opportunities to really take that deeper look and integrate and heal those deep soul wounds we haven't been able to look at or integrate before. So a lot of that is happening throughout the months with the sun in Scorpio, but then of course when the moon touches Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, or has a new moon in Scorpio, and the connection with Uranus, then things boil up. Then something might very well happen as an event, and then you have to deal with it. Okay, my dears, so now I want to talk about the gemstone for the week, but you're welcome to think about your questions and put them down. Also, if you're listening to this recording later, you can always leave me your comments. Please do, so I do know I'm not just talking into empty space here. So ask your questions and I will make sure to get back to you. Okay, gemstone of the week. So I have been a jeweler and astrologer 40 years or so, and gemstones for me were always close to my heart as a jeweler, and I always wanted to make meaningful jewelry. So not just jewelry which is beautiful, which is nice to have, but if it also carries a frequency which is supportive for us, that's even better. So I developed what I call the gemstone profile report, where I give you one gemstone for each planet in your chart and your chart. So it's just $20, and that way you really know your true birthstones. So especially for the women, we want to make ourselves beautiful and have beautiful jewelry. So why not start out with a gemstone which really do something for you the most? I mean, each stone, when you bring it into your energy field, will do something and will alter your frequency a little bit. But if you can do that consciously, because you do know your gemstones, your true birthstones, then that opens new possibilities to consciously create a piece of jewelry or to meditate with certain stones, or you just have them in your pocket. Okay, so today I want to talk about the Chameleon. The Chameleon is a very unspectacular brownish orange stone, and you won't see much jewelry with it. You can find necklaces or bigger pieces. I don't have one to show you, but I know you know how Chameleon looks. So but it's a powerful stone. So I want to read you a little bit from my book, Jewelry and Gems for Self-Discovery, where I talk about the metaphysical and healing qualities of the gemstones and how you can use them to support areas in your chart. But if you get your gemstone profile, you will have really your gemstones there. Okay, so Chameleon is carrying the signature of Mars because of the reddish color, Moon, Sun, Neptune and Chiron. So now you can see how that fits with what we have been discussing for being actualized this week. So the best stones come from India, where the color is often enhanced by putting them in the sun, which is kind of interesting. And it's a very rare stone because it has both energies. It has sun energy and moon energy, so it balances into the yin and yang. And in the American Indian tradition, Chameleon is looked as a power stone because it connects us to Mother Earth, to the ground, the material dimension we inhabit and we live in right now. So this is a wonderful stone when we are recovering from any kind of illnesses, or we feel exhausted or tired. If we have been nursing children, it's a stone which kind of gets your own juices going again. So because it's such a concrete, manifesting, materializing stone, it can really help you to manifest your visions, your dreams on this earthly plane. So yeah, the Neptune part is kind of connecting us to the overall non-physical dimension of consciousness, the ocean consciousness. Sun, Moon then does the balancing, and Mars is that energizing factor. So that's why this is a wonderful stone for this week. So if you have one, keep it in your pocket, in your energy field. Maybe put it under your pillow when you go to sleep, or if you have necklace or something, wear it. So you always want to have the gemstones you work with really in your energy field. And if you know muscle testing, you can even use that to really see which stone you bring in your energy field. And some stones will be weakening, they don't fit in your energy field, and others will be strengthening your testing. So that's a good way to really make sure you're selecting the right stone to support yourself. Okay, so if you haven't done so, please like my video, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter. If you watch this on YouTube, you can subscribe down there. They just don't send it out as often as I do launches for videos, so you might also want to sign up for my newsletter on my website, mauiastrologyreading.com. Okay, my dears, so if you don't have any questions for me, then I wrap it up. I always go 45 minutes. I just can't help it. Every Saturday I start on, I try to get it down to 30 minutes. Don't want to take so much of your time, but it's just the flow. So thank you for hanging in there with me. And I'd love to hear your feedback and how your last week was, especially in relation to what we discussed last week. So yeah, come join me again and keep me posted with what's going on for you. And as we say here on Maui, aloha or namaste. And I see you around.